Okay, so hello everyone. We're back at it again. In today's video, we're going to discuss arrays in C++. So, what are arrays? Arrays can be thought of as some sort of like a list of items, kind of like a shopping list. You have a list of items, and you go one by one to buy all the things. So you can think of arrays like that. So an array is essentially a list of items. That's what I'm trying to get at. And one really good advantage of using arrays is that you can in fact store multiple variables into multiple values as a single variable, which is really important in some really like important applications and such. So first, let me show you how an array actually works. So to define an array in C++, it works pretty much the same way as it would normally in C#, but the syntax is a little bit different. So to do that, all you have to do is type in int, because we want a full like number. Let's first do a simple one, which is a number-based array, and let's call it num_r, like that. And let's do how many items do you want? Let's say you want 5 items or 3. Let's do 3 items as an example. And let's do, what do we want to do? Yeah, so now we do these squiggly brackets, the semicolon, and then we type in the values. So since we need to get 3 values, I'm just gonna do it like this. And those are our 3 values in that. So what have I done here? So essentially, the way you define an array is it's as if you were to define a regular number in C++, but you'll notice that there's something different. These square brackets pretty much define the array, and the number between the brackets define the size of our array, which is important. So we have an array of 3 items. So we have to have 3 items, 1, 2, and 3. So those are our 3 items defined. But how can we make sure that it is actually that? Well, we can just simply print out the number. If you remember, to get output, you just do cout, and you push the output into it. So let's print out, I don't know, the first number. So you'll notice that as I'm typing it, I put in the number 0, because arrays count from 0 to a certain number. In our case, it will be 0, 1, and 2. So the 1 would be 0, 2 would be 1, and 3 would be 2. To show to you that it actually works like that, I'm going to copy this section of code and paste it in multiple times, and just change the numbers. This one to 1, this one to 2. So watch what happens if I decide to compile the code. It takes a little while to compile, and there we go. And now to run it, we just type in arrays.exe, and you'll notice that it writes them out 1, 2, 3, just like that. But to make it a bit easier to read, we can add a end line thing at the end, so it will move to the next line. I'll do the same thing here, end line, whoops, end line, there we go. And let me compile this real quick. And if we decide to run it again, you'll notice that this time it's been written in a way that it puts them below each other, so it makes it a bit easier for us to read. So to understand what's actually going on, so once again, an array counts from 0 to 1. So the number in the position of the array at 0, so position in the array 0 is 1. It is 1. Position 1 in the array, it's 2. It's 2. Position 2 in the array, it's 3. It's 3. See, simple enough. So that's a number array. But what if we wanted to print, what if we would want to make a string array? To make a string array, it's really easy. First we have to define our string array. Actually, let me remove this because we're not gonna use it. We're going to define it again later. You'll understand why. So let's do a string array instead. To do a string array, it's actually really easy. You do pretty much the same thing as you would normally. So string, I don't know, let's call it, let's say I want to buy some fruit, okay? So shop will be our string array. And our string array will have the value of, I don't know, let's do 3 again. And let's put the squiggly brackets in and the semicolon. And one thing you'll notice that I'll do differently is I'll put in double quotes 3 times. So since it's a string, it takes text, and text in C++ is defined with the double quotes. I don't know, let's do apple, banana, and kiwi. And to print it out, we do the same thing we did before. So essentially, let me explain what we've done here. So we've just created a string called a string array called shop, and it takes in 3 items. Those 3 items are apple, banana, and kiwi, separated by a column and ended with a semicolon put into the squiggly brackets. Pretty much self-explanatory. So let's now print out each individual item. So cout, and let's do shop at position 0, so you can pretty much guess what it prints out, and we want to end the line. And I'm just gonna copy this 3 times and just change the numbers around. And here I'm going to change this to 1, this to 2, and what will happen is it will let me just compile the code once again. And let me just run it, and as you can see, it prints out apple, banana, and kiwi. So that's our string array. Essentially, it works the same way as a regular array, but with text and a different data type, obviously. So that's really cool and all, but just imagine that you have an array that's like really massive, you know. It's like, I don't know, 25 items. It's not efficient to write out 25 lines of just printing it out. It's actually far more efficient to, let me just make an example, like a fairly extreme case, okay? So to do that, we're going to actually remove all of this. Actually, we could just return to the point where I had my my number array. There we go. And I'm just gonna do some small modifications to the code. So obviously I'm gonna continue this, but let's say we have, I don't know, 9 items in there. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we got 9 items in our array now. And we're not gonna print it out like this. This is not ideal. So for that, we can use something called loops. So what is a loop? A loop essentially, let me just explain what a loop is as I'm writing it. So we're going to use one of the major types of loops. I think I already mentioned loops. In fact, if I list out the items, I did mention loops. So go ahead and check out the video if you don't know what a loop is. But a loop is essentially a piece of code that does the instruction a set number of times. We will use that to our advantage. This is why I love arrays, because you can do multiple things with numbers in a certain way, which is really cool. So let's say we wanted to print out all these numbers, but we do not want to write it out this way. Well, for that, for loops are coming to our rescue. So let me just define a for loop real quick. And let me just write it out real quick, and then I'll explain what it actually does. And I'm just gonna copy this and change the number to I. And I'm gonna comment these out real quick because we're not gonna use them. So what have I done here? So I've defined a for loop that is going to, if it's equal to 0 at the beginning, which it is, it's going to check, this is a condition. Is it smaller or equal to 8? It is. Move and print out the first thing in the array. So it will print out the number 1. Then it will increment, and then it will ask, is number 1 smaller than 8? And if it is, it will write it out and then increment again. Increment is essentially increasing its value by 1. and it will just keep on going, and if it's equal to 8, it will still print it out. Whereas if I did this, it will stop at 8. If I did this, it will continue all the way up to 9, because it's the last, instruction that we need. So if I decide to run this code now, and this I here pretty much replaces the 0, 1, and 2 in this set of code, but it does it automatically for us, so we don't have to write it out. Essentially, this I is replaced with 0, 1, 2, 3, and it counts up based on these items in the array over here. So it will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, So let me just compile this real quick. And let's run it. And as you can see, it does the thing as I mentioned it did. It printed it out for us, and it's just what? 3 lines of code instead of what, 9? Who wants to do 9 lines of code for something that can take only 3? That's just a waste of speed, and a waste of time, and a waste of cycles. It's not good. Now, this example would be good enough by itself. But what if we want to get the number of items in our array? Now, we obviously know that there are 9 items, but what if the user doesn't know how many items there are? Well, to do that, we can simply add a function that will do that for us. Excuse me. So to do that, I'm going to write out a formula and then explain what it actually does. I have to move my notes a little because I cannot see it. Okay, there we go. So the way we do this, we will define a full number variable called len, which is short for length, obviously. And we want to write out, what was it? Size of, not if, but of. And there we type out the name of our array, which is num array. And that will be divided by size of, and the first item in our num array. So like that. So what have I done here? Actually, let me just even write out the number itself. I'm just gonna copy this, and I'm just gonna get the len in here. So len, and I'm going to do number of items in num_r array, and there we go. So what is this going to do? Well, let me first explain what I've done here. So this thing right here, this formula, what does it do? So it takes the size of, as the size of function pretty much does, it takes the size of the entire array, so pretty much all the 9 items. The entire size of it will take the entire size, and then we will divide it by one of the items or one of the elements in our array in order to get the number or the length of the item or the length of the array. The length of the array pretty much gives us the number of items in our array, which it should return 9 items. So to do just that, we're going to compile our code and see what it does. And let's run it, and as you can see, it indeed prints out that the number of items in our array is 9. So what is happening here? I am going to go line by line explaining what it does. So in the beginning, over here, we have defined ourselves a number array. And bear in mind, this works for strings as well, but I'm using numbers as an example here, and I don't want this video to be too long. So we have defined ourselves a integer-based array with 9 items in it. The 9 items, or elements, if you will, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. The items are separated in their own section using the squiggly brackets, and each item or element is divided by a column. Then it's ended off by a semicolon, like almost everything in C, or C++, or C# if you will. And this thing right here, the for loop, it pretty much does this line of code 9 times. Why does it do it 9 times? As I mentioned, it will go, it starts at 0. Is 0 smaller or equal to 8? It is smaller. Print this out. Is 1 smaller or equal to 8? Print this out. Is 2 smaller or equal to 8? Print this out. Is 3 smaller or equal to 8? Print this out. You know, just like that. So it will just print out all of these numbers right here that you can see right here. And my face isn't in the way, that's good. Make sure you move it because you want to see some stuff more. And this was from our beginning section where it pretty much does this thing for us, but without us having to write it out, which is really neat. Then we have this thing right here. So this formula, it takes the size of the entire array, so all of these items. In fact, we can write out the size of the entire array if you want to. I'm just gonna, you know, yoink. Size of num array, so size of num array, and we're going to take this function right here and paste it in. And let me just compile this code real quick. It will still work. And you'll see that our size of the array is 36. And if we are going to take the size of one of the items, so let's do size of the first item in our array. So size of first element in num array. And we just do this. We do the fg for 0. You almost cannot see it. Let me resize this. See, that's what I did. And also there's the and line thing. So this is what I did right here. I just added this thing in here, which will give us the size of the first element in our num r array. So the size of 1 in here. So now we decide to run the code. So let's compile it, obviously, and let's run it. You'll notice that it counts in sets of 4, essentially like 4 bytes. You cannot even see it. There we go. So it counts in 4. So it's like 4 bytes, I think. I think that's what it is. Essentially it counts like with 4s in it. So the size of our entire array is 36. Well, that's because we have a 9 times 4, and 9 times 4 is 46, because one of the elements is 4. So you can pretty much take any element from the array, and it will do the same thing. So you can pretty much take the second one, the third one, the fourth one, it will do the same thing. It will give us the same number here. And then, the number of items in our array is calculated using this formula right here, where it takes the size of the entire array, which is 36, and divides it by the size of one of the elements, which is 4. So 36 divided by 4 is indeed 9, and that's how you get the number of items in a array. And you can do the same thing for strings. I hope I don't have to explain that, because I'm trying to make this as accessible as possible. Just remember that each item has a value in the array as 4. The size of it is 4. So the more you add, the bigger the array is, obviously. So the more space in memory it has to take up. But it still doesn't take that much space in memory if we were to define each and every variable separately. Just imagine having like 9 different items to go through. That's not ideal. This is if you have to work with multiple values in a certain data type, I recommend using arrays right out of the gate. It's a really simple thing to do. It's not that complicated to do. And I hope this made sense. Again, if you have questions, just ask me. I'll try to explain everything as I can, because I'm trying my best to make it accessible to everyone. And what was the next topic we're going to cover? Oh yeah, references. So that's gonna be fun. But the references are simple. So I'm going to cover references and pointers in the next one, and then we are going to cover functions and then classes in C++, and that should be pretty much the basics and all the important things you have to know about C++. I do have other videos planned for like Java and JavaScript, so be on the lookout for that. I'm still learning it myself, so once I understand all the important parts and bits, I will make videos about that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, all the code will be on my GitHub in the description down below. Make sure to share it around, leave a like or a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.